This is a great opportunity today in support of the National Infrastructure Week to talk about how important infrastructure is to our community, not only to the nation, obviously the state in West Texas as well. With me is John Osborne. He's the CEO of Market Lubbock, of Lubbock Economic Development Alliance and Visit Lubbock. And who better to know about the importance of infrastructure, obviously, in Lubbock and West Texas than he is. John, thank you very much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit, what is it from the economic development perspective and Visit Lubbock and the tourism perspective? Why is infrastructure so important to us?
Infrastructure is so key to our everyday lives. And think about every time you actually get in the car and you head to work, you're driving on streets, and that's infrastructure. That infrastructure is so important to get you to that good paying job so that you can then provide for your family. But more importantly is the ability for that then business to do all the business that they do. And that requires infrastructure as well. And sometimes that infrastructure is needed to go outside the region. Sometimes it's to go outside the state and outside the nation. And so having that connectivity is so important. You think back to over 100 years ago and how important it was for towns to have the railroad come through their community. And then in the 1950s to have the interstate highway come through their community. And we are in just that same predicament today, that we need continued investments in our highways and in our interstates in order to ensure that goods and services can get to your community and that people can get to your community, and then also good infrastructure within your community so that you can get to your places of business, so you can get to your kids' soccer games, so you can enjoy the good food.
Quality of life as well as jobs.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, we know that infrastructure is competitiveness. And for us to be a better competitive nation, and especially even us in Lubbock, Texas, obviously we have to have good streets. Thank goodness that the county bond proposition passed on May 4th, obviously to provide safety as well as that infrastructure support. But nonetheless, we know how important that is.
In fact, on that, Area Development Magazine does an annual survey of corporate executives every year, and it's a huge, huge survey. And every year, the number one or number two answer for why corporate execs choose to expand or relocate to a particular city is because of highway accessibility.
Yeah, and I don't think you can find better accessibility than Lubbock, Texas. I mean, not only is it in our streets, but in our air operations, our aviation, our Lubbock Preston Smith International Airport is huge, and so we are wide open spaces out here, but we have some excellent infrastructure. And your other role is the chairman of the Ports to Plains Trade Corridor, the Alliance. That is huge for us, not only in Lubbock and the West Texas region, but tell us how important infrastructure is in that entire Ports to Plains Trade Corridor.
You know, the Ports to Plains Trade Corridor basically starts at Laredo and goes all the way to Canada, and it comes right here through Lubbock. It goes through San Angelo on up into Colorado and Wyoming. And that trade corridor, if you look at what Texas does with Mexico in terms of trade, it's one of the top trading states in the nation. And it's so important for our oil and gas reserves to be able to get to market. Same with our food and fiber to also be able to get to market, and they all use that highway accessibility. And so in terms of Texas, you've got about 600 miles between the Dallas area and Albuquerque, and yet there's no north-south interstate other than from Lubbock to Amarillo. Yeah. And so the development of an additional north-south interstate would help alleviate a lot of the traffic on I-35. It would also bring a lot of economic opportunities to our state, and it would provide connectivity for our energy and food and fiber to get to marketplace.
Well, and that's huge. And that future interstate designation is so important. Thank goodness we're seeing a little bit of movement in Austin. That's great for that. And obviously, any of the congestion that we can relieve, it's been told that there's $75 billion worth of economic impact because of congestion in America when it comes to movement of freight. So it's even more impactful for us in West Texas if we're able to obviously get, like you say, the energy corridor and especially even the agriculture corridor. So that is really wonderful.
There's a lot of people that are looking to move from the major metropolitan areas to mid-sized cities because they know that the congestion is so much less in those cities, and they can get to their kids' events, they can get to their kids' school, activities and yet still be able to work a good job.
Well, we all know that infrastructure is important, not only, of course, for air, rail, freight, and obviously quality of life, but also even things such as pipelines and oil and gas and things of that nature. So this is a huge Infrastructure Week support, and I want to thank you very much, John, for being here and showing the communities not only the business end of it as well as what we represent, but obviously that quality of life, and I think it's time to go to a baseball game as we speak.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.